Hey, welcome to Twirl Talk. I'm Kyle Kaiser, and I snagged Savannah Miller and Lexi Duda for tonight. So we're doing things a little out of order because I had to snag these two when I can get them. And so tonight is just another indulgent, selfish night of Twirl Talk because I do all these about the things I'm interested in. And I love these two. I've loved these two and the way they've worked and their friendship. So I thought that they just had a lot to offer us. So Savannah and Lexi, thank you for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having us. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I know you have nothing to do, and like with the holidays happening, and like you have nothing better to do than to talk about trolling again, right? So let's go back. You guys are quite the Twirlebrities. A lot of people might think that they know you really well. But I want to go back a little bit. So to your history in twirling as little nuggets and so Savannah, do you remember when you first got to know Lexi?
I think it was, wow, this is going to be so bad. So we've always been in a similar age division growing up. And so since we both started at a young age, I remember like seeing her at competitions when we were really, really young, like 4 and 5 years old. But I really don't think that our friendship really started until and Lexi, you can correct me if you know this, like 2007, 2008.
I think it was after Holland because we were both like I was there for fun because I was too young to even compete for the at MBTA Worlds and you were competing. And so I came because they were doing like Wheaton was doing team. And so I remember like sneaking into the practice area all the time and us like trying double tricks and like all of this. And like I think that's where we first got to know each other a little bit. But then from there, like I would agree, like between like 2007, 2008, then like we were like, oh, okay, now we're around each other more. Like, I know you.
Yeah,
So don't you think that those trips are just so bonding, whether it's nationals, but particularly world, where you're in another country, you start to experience things that others don't. And those just create like moments that are there forever. So Savannah, when things first started with Lexi, did you view her as competition? Was she goal setting for you? Like, how was that relationship?
So, I mean, sort of. Yeah. I mean, she was similar age to me. I was competing a year older or 2 years older than her, depending on whether it was MBTA or USTA we were competing in. So we never, there may have been a few times that we actually were like against each other. And then when we got older, it definitely, we were in the more age divisions together. But I mean, we've always kind of pushed each other. I feel like throughout the years, like she said, when we first really started like becoming friends in 2006, we were doing tricks together in the practice gym. So like I think always that was something that did push our friendship a lot, was like, okay, so you're gonna try it, then I'm gonna try it. But it was always really playful. It never was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, she's doing it, so I have to do it. It was
Yeah.
never like that relationship. But it's always been like a really healthy, like, we're gonna push each other to make each other better.
Well, that's really why I wanted to be able to talk with you because I think it's just such a fun thing to learn from. So, Lexi, like in USTA, because of traveling tricks, you do trick lines. And so, trick lines kind of become like the thing of like you kind of standing in the line and you're chatting, and then somebody whips out something amazing, and you're like, holy moly. So, Lex, what was Savannah doing that you went, I'm going to do that?
Honestly, like I don't remember doing trick lines that much growing up. Though only when you say trick line, what I think of is when Nationals was in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was like after I guess it was the day after, and we did command performances because each of us won national titles. So we're doing command performances, and all I remember is like Savannah doing like tricks across the floor, and then I was like dancing on the corner, and then she got done, and then she started dancing, and we were in the corner where all the judges sat. So like all I remember is they just like looked over at us and we're like, okay, like that's all right. Cause like we vibed with each other, we caught each other's eyes right after. We're just like dancing together and we're like, okay, this is like not professional at all, but like we already been here for like a week. So we have to keep our brain like in a good in a good place.
Well, I think that that's also it too, is that you two being a team advisor and being a coach in the background has been really fun for me to, I just feel like I get like a sneak peek at how coaches and athletes react together, how parents and athletes do, and how athletes prepare. And you two are a wonderful mix of, you're going to get your job done and you're going to be all business, but you're also going to let it be fun. So, Lexi, what is your way of finding the fun?
So I feel like a lot of it happens before you even get to the competition. So like if I feel good in whatever I'm doing by the time I'm at the competition, then I just need to do like a little bit of everything. So then everything's warmed up and I'm all good on that. But like in reality, like when you get down to it, like you're just having fun on the floor. Like you're not there to like make this big old statement necessarily. Like you're there because you love what you're doing. So like I always thought more so like at competitions, like just have fun with it. Like you're at the time where you can now like show everybody it. So when I'm like going on the floor, there's no reason to get all stressed out about it because it's going to be what it's going to be. Like I've done as much training as I can do and I've prepared as best as I can. So might as well dance it out, have a few deep breaths, you know, be nice and relaxed going on the floor because whatever's going to happen on the floor, I mean, you can be sad about it afterwards, you can be happy about it afterwards. You never really know what's going to happen.
Well, I think that that's another statement in itself about both of you, in that before you ever get to the competition, your level of preparation has allowed you to be in that brain space. Because if you had not had that level of preparation, there's a whole list of other things that could be going on. So there's another topic I want to get to in just a minute, because I find both of you very responsible to yourself and yourself only. It's not the judge's fault. It's not the competition's fault. I see it on you, and we'll come back to that. But Savannah, what has allowed you to have fun in the competition setting?
I think I kind of relate to Lexi a lot in this. It definitely has to have, you have to have that mindset before you go into a competition that you've already worked this hard up to this point. So if you're going to stress yourself out before you got on the floor, it's not worth it at that point. You're there to have fun. And honestly, the thing that like really pushes me through competitions and makes sure is that I'm having a good time is like friends like Lexi, where I never see her yet. And I feel like recently we haven't talked a lot, but like this conversation we can pick up where we left off. So it's getting to see those friends who make you happy and who are literally your best friends, even though you only see them once or twice a year, that just being around them and we're all there to do the same thing and we all love the sport of baton twirling. That's really like the mindset I try to have when I go into a competition, which just makes it so much more fun. And then getting to dance and listen to music, like at the World Championships in 2018, Lexi and I shared headphones. We warmed up on the floor together and we were just bumping along. It was a great time. So it's turning those high stress situations into something that's fun and enjoyable with the people that you love that just make everything so much better.
Well, that's what makes you joyful and so likable. That those athletes that are really sullen and they take everything, of course, you're going to take it hard. You've worked hard. There's a lot of time and money invested. But the difference is that you take ownership of your mistakes. So, both of you, I've seen you come straight off the floor, go straight to the practice gym, and you're like, dang it, I can do that. And you go back and you prove to yourself, like, that was just dumb. Why did I do that? So is that something, Savannah, that you always did?
I think so, but I think a lot of that came from my family because my brothers and I are all such hard workers. And that was something that was instilled in us at such a young age. And so even my brothers, if my older brother, who was a professional baseball player, if he had a bad game, he would go right to the practice area right after a game and do it correctly, kind of just instilling in his brain, oh, I can do this. Why did I make that mistake? And kind of figuring out why and what happened. And so I think it's more so proving to myself that I can do it when I come off the floor and I do the trick a million times. And Lexi can kind of attest to that too. I think she has a lot of experience from team. Probably Lexi, if you want to chime in, like why we do
Yeah,
that.
like I remember from like such a young age always starting like if you drop the trick on the floor, you come off, you own it up. Like there's no reason to kind of like hide behind it because like you're the one out there doing it. So like you either take responsibility for it or blame someone else. But if you take responsibility for it, that's where you grow from it. That's where you become a better twirler because then you'll know what not to do for next time. Basically, you can control it a little bit easier.
And I really admire both of you for that, because I think that those are the true markers of champions. is taking the ownership of what you've been able to do. So, when something has not gone right on the floor, Lexi, has Savannah ever helped you through one of those times, a really tough competitive time?
I feel like we always have especially when it comes to like nationals or worlds, like we're always around each other from the time that we get there in the morning, from the time that we leave at night, like, and half the time we're even in the same hotel room. So like like we're literally always around each other. So I feel like that just helps, like, in all. I kind of feel like both of us relax a little bit more around each other because we're just like we're at the similar mindsets, and we've like always said growing up that we feel like we're like very similar in some like odd way, but like we're not similar, but like we are similar. So I think that like it matches well for us, and it kind of just, I would almost say, like mellows us out because like we warm up at the same pace, like we'll practice our tricks, like we don't always do the same events, but we're always around for the each other for the other events kind of thing.
Well, you know that I commend both of you for your time management skills, that you don't waste energy. Now, I don't know, I don't know if that's because like, heck no, I'm not practicing more than I need to, or you just got really smart about time management. But so Savannah, has there ever been like, do you know what to say to Lexi when she's upset?
I feel like, well, I'm probably the worst person to comfort somebody. That's just life in general, though. But for her, like, I just try to say, like, hey, everything's gonna be okay. Like, or if it was like a first round that she had a bad run or whatever, I'm like, listen, just the first round. Like, you got it out of your system. Now go out there and kill it. Like, I know you can. And just reminding her that she can be successful and that she's done all these tricks a million times. So stop stressing about it and just go and have fun. And we have like a little like handshake kind of thing that we always do. And it's really important to like our little before we walk on the floor. So I feel like just doing that, it's literally just a clap and a hug. And we say love you. And that's it. And so even for me, like in those stressful situations, like just having that hug and saying, okay, like we're in the same boat, it's gonna be fine. It kind of calms us both down and makes sure that we're ready to take the floor.
I feel like afterwards, we both like if we come off with a bad routine, both of us are like, all right, like I know you need a minute or two, and then I'll come over to you afterwards, but I know that you need to like be mad at yourself for a second and cool down and figure life out. And then I'll come over and be like, okay, it really wasn't that bad, I promise you. Like it could have been so much worse. Like, so you're fine. You have more things to do. You have more things to worry about. We're cool.
That was going to be my question. Like, what do you do when you don't know what to say?
Oh,
So,
you
has
did that
there
to me.
been a moment, and I think that I know this answer, I think that I've seen it happen when you two have been head to head for a big title? Do you stay away from each other? Do you, like, what do you do?
We just act as if like we weren't, I guess, like act as if we weren't really like competing against each other or anything. Like I feel like that's never really come over, like we've never gone, just like say we were both in finals together, we've never been like, okay, like we can't do our typical things because we're against each, like really we don't care, like we're just twirling, we're here to twirl. Like we'll still do all of our superstition things, like it's just like a
Rituals.
routine.
You
Yeah.
need rituals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like our friendship is so built now. I mean, how many years? It's since 2006 we've had this friendship, and so the friendship means so much more to us than a title or like a routine. So that in itself, like if I come off the floor first, like I'm gonna scream and cheer Lexi on from the sidelines, even if I should be warming up for something else. Like I will put that off just so I can watch her
Yeah.
twirl.
I feel like we always watch each other. Like we do the hug, high five, and then we always stay for the routine. And then we're like, all right, let me warm up. It takes them a little bit to get back around to the other side so I can say good job. Like it's a balancing act.
Right. Well, and also, years later, 100 years later, it's the same thing with some of my friends that I could not see them for 3 or 4 years, and you pick right up where you were, and it's all those hours in the gym, and it's all that, and sometimes it's you and me against the world. Like, you know, sometimes that ownership of the two of you together is nice, especially when you're top dogs, and sometimes everybody's out for you. So to have somebody in your corner makes it better. And I know you two probably wouldn't say that, but that happens in that, like, if you two are the top ones that everybody's gunning for, then that also helps your camaraderie. Like, we got this. So, tell me about trips now. Now we're going to save the Italy discussion, and you get to filter what you want in that. But your favorite, so Savannah, your favorite world championship trip, either USTA or MBTA?
Oh, this is such a hard question. I think probably for me, it's probably 2015.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, so
Jinx.
it was, I don't know, just in general, like I feel like all of Team USA was like such like one collective unit at that World Championships, and that was really the first time for MBTA at least that I felt like Team USA was one unit. And so we did everything together. I mean, we Lexi and I like led chants together, and we were kind of at that age where we kind of had a name in the sport of MBTA. And so like she was in junior, I was in senior, and I kind of knew in the back of my head it was my last world, so it already had kind of like a sentimental moment to it, but also like getting to cheer Lexi's team on. I mean, I think they went for almost every event that year. And so like we had certain little things that we did for them in the crowd. And so it was just really more of like a family trip with all of us twirlers cheering each other on. So that was probably my favorite.
I
And
definitely
yours
agree
too?
with that. Yeah, I was gonna say the same one because I also felt like that was the first one where like, so the worlds before that was Switzerland, and I didn't feel like we were around each other so much because the arena was so big that we weren't like next to each other all the time, and that was the first one that I did team at, so like there was like other different like stressors going on. But 2015 was like I've already done team there before. I've already done individuals at like MBTA Worlds before. So I was kind of more on like the chill vibe. I was like, okay, let's just twirl. Like we practiced this so many times. Like it should be fine. And so then I felt like we were just, it was a lot smaller of an arena too. So like we were around each other the entire time. Like when either one of us wasn't twirling, like we were there. Like I very distinctly remember, I'm pretty sure I went on right before you for freestyle finals, or like two before you for freestyle finals, because like they alternated, whatever. But I remember you coming off like when we both had no drops back to back. And that was like the first time I ever had a no drop freestyle at MBTA World. So I was like so excited. And you came off and had a no drop too. And so both of us were like super happy, like tears were coming out, like big old hug. Like I just remember it being like, because it was the last event too. So we were like, oh my gosh, we're done. We both did great. Thank goodness. Let's just see what happens from there. So like that one sticks like pretty big in my brain for some reason. That one always pops out the most. Like if I think about worlds, like that one was it.
Well, I think it's fun too when you know that you did your job and you left it in the judge's hands. That as a coach, that's all you can ask sometimes is like, listen, I'm giving you all the best quality stuff that I can give you. All I can ask is you do the best job and leave it in the judge's hands. So that's kind of nice that it's like somebody didn't blow it and then you know that you were okay. I do want to go into, because you're part of the generation now that we're looking at the future and we're looking at IBTF and we're looking at everything that's happening. I think that you were some of the strongest twirlers and faces to be able to be successful in both organizations. And I think we're going to look back on this time and know what groundbreakers you were, that you were really the tie that binds in order to make it seamless. From that, if you're a good twirler here, you're going to be a great twirler here too. And it's really your experiences of just like, listen, we're just twirling. And, I said that from the beginning when we had our first Grand Prix. And I don't know if you guys remember when I had to line up everybody for the parade, and like we had the blue warm-ups and the white warm-ups, and everyone's in the practice gym and you could kind of see everyone like, I don't know what to do, and circling around. I'm like, okay, let's go. We're having a picture, and just put everybody together. And you could see everyone just go, okay, this is how it's working. And then even from a team coordinator standpoint of how it was going to work, you could see everyone relax, and you guys were fine because, my line at that time was, listen, at the end of the day, these kids just want to twirl. That's all they want to do. They don't swear that one is better than the other. But have you had an awareness, Lexi, about the diversity and the blending of the two organizations and your part in any of that, or how have you approached it?
I've never looked back and like think that it like I helped any of that, or I was like in any way, shape, or form helped influence it at all. I honestly have never taken a step back and thought about like being in both organizations, how like it's I guess at the time more unique than it is now and everything like that. I've honestly just like thought, cool, it's more competitions I get to twirl at. Like, they're very different in individually, like in their own ways. And I love both aspects of them. So like I would never trade that for the world. Like I love the experiences that I had in both and you couldn't recreate one in the other. Um, but I've never thought about like it going forward in the future that like we helped make that happen in a way. Like I've always just thought like, oh cool.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that you're there wasn't probably some huge plot or method. It was just exactly what you said. There's an opportunity to twirl. Let's just twirl. So, Savannah, I really like what you said about neither one recreates the other because there's certainly wonderful things to appreciate in both. And as we move forward, I think we're going to see the greatness in both coming together. At least that's my hope. Savannah, what's your thoughts on competing in both?
I think it's super important. Honestly, I was the same as Lexi. Since we were both kind of like best friends literally at the time when we both decided to go to USTA, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to USTA as an MBTA twirler and I'm going to prove a point. Like, no, we just wanted to twirl. And so kind of like our mindset about it was, okay, well, USTA Nationals is always before MBTA. So it was a great setup for us. We had already been under that national pressure. And then when by the time we got to MBTA, it was like, oh, this is a breeze. We can do this because we've done it before. We've already done USTA Nationals. So it was just a chance for us to really get into both organizations. And then from there, we both kind of grew more, which I think a large part came from USTA was kind of trying new things at a later age and having to do compulsories and having to do short program and freestyles a little bit different. And so forcing our bodies to do those different things made us stronger twirlers and obviously it made us more well known within both organizations that we were pushing ourselves to do both organizations. So I think overall doing both MBTA and USTA, it's going to make you a stronger twirler because you're going to have different judges. First off, you're going to have different rules you're going to follow. So you're going to be pushing your body in different ways. And more specifically, from a USTA standpoint, learning compulsories, it definitely made me at least a stronger twirler as far as relearning basics. I mean, I hadn't done like sit there and do thumb flips or flourish, all the different things we have to do since I was like 6. So having to relearn those at kind of the middle of my career kind of put a reset button and it really made me a stronger twirler. So I think having to go back and relearn those was definitely something that's going to make athletes from now on so much stronger.
Well, it's going to help you as a coach too. I'm sure you've seen that along the way that it helps you in the coaching system. And I don't ever see the two of you were ever pigeonholed in that, oh, that's an MBTA. I never got that vibe that, oh, here's an MBTA twirler coming over. It was all about talent. And so that was really fun to watch. And I think now as we see it moving forward, we're seeing how valuable that was that we have twirlers that are getting the gifts of both organizations. And at the end of the day, just making great twirlers, you regardless of what goes in the future. So let's talk about the college twirling experience. Did you two know specifically where you wanted to go? And Savannah, had you ever looked at East Coast or did you know you were going to Arkansas?
So I had a list. I kind of started like my freshman, sophomore year, just with my older brother being in athletics in college. My dad definitely was very hands on in the experience for me. So we started my freshman and sophomore year, and I had a list of 10 schools, and they were all over the place. I mean, from Hawaii up to New York, just kind of wide range. And it was really important for me to find a school academically that I wanted to be a part of their program. So my top 10 was not even based on twirling. It was based on academic programs. And so I narrowed it down to 5 schools that did have twirling positions. And then Arkansas wasn't even in the top 5. I say that now and it makes me laugh because I couldn't imagine myself anywhere else. But they weren't even in really the top 5. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up going to a twirler day at Arkansas just to kind of see what it was like. And I instantly fell in love. And so that was the only place I auditioned. And that's where I ended up. And looking back, that was just like a sign from God that I was meant to be there and it was supposed to happen that way. But yeah, it was not on my radar at all whatsoever that I was going to call the Hogs, but definitely best decision I've ever made.
Oh, when the angels start singing when you walk on a campus, you know you're where you're supposed to be. So, Lexi, what about your college search?
So I was very different and I did not have a list at all. I grew up going to Maryland games because it's only an hour from my house. So it's like that perfect distance where it's like far enough away from home, but it's also close enough where if I need to go back and forth in a day, like perfect distance. I thought about like would I want to go out of Maryland, and I like looked into some other schools, but like ultimately when it came down to it, I was like I have grown up here my entire life. My family's here, my team's here. Like there was so many things that I was like, I love the atmosphere of campus. Like I fell in love with the band completely. Like they're just so great, such a great support system. And just like everything about it made sense. And there was like in my head, I was like, there's no reason for me to go look any other places really and like try out anywhere else because I know in the end, like I would be the happiest here. So I kind of went for not just like on twirling or anything like that academically because when I applied to schools, I thought I was going to go into like athletic training. Like I didn't even think I was journalism at all. I had like an interview thing on TV for Congressional Cup the spring semester of my senior year of high school. And so I was like, okay, like I think I want to go athletics, some sort, whatever. And then I did that and I was like, oh no, I think I'm doing journalism. So then I instantly was like, okay, I'm gonna go into broadcast journalism. And turns out Maryland's like one of the best schools for it because of the location too. I'm 20 minutes from DC. I'm an hour from Baltimore. Um, 40 minutes from Annapolis. Like it's literally like everything came together perfectly.
Did you two ever talk about it?
So,
Afterwards,
so-
it was almost an entire year. I think it was literally the summer after my freshman year and like her sophomore year. And remember we were at like nationals or something, and somebody asked us our majors. I don't even know. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm broadcast journalism. And she looks at me and she's like, no way. And I was like, what? Like, what are you saying that for? She's like, I'm broadcast journalism. I was like, so we talk, but we never told each other that we're both broadcast journalism majors. Okay, all right, makes sense, makes sense. So yeah,
happened that we both were. So
yeah,
And how?
Rome, because we didn't officially talk about it at first. It was like I remember talking to like my mom about it or something, and she was like, maybe like check in with Savannah, see if she's like studying or anything like that. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking of going to Rome to study abroad in the spring next year. And she's like, I'm between Rome and I think it was Florence or something
yeah.
like that. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Twice in a row, like within like 3 years, like that's really weird. So
So let's go back. So they both did study, you both did study abroad, same semester. And then so go back. Was it by design that you wound up in the same places?
not
No,
really.
so we like she said, we never really talked about it. Studying abroad together. I mean, I'm a year older than her, so it was just kind of like, oh, like we both want to study abroad, but it wasn't something like we're gonna plan to go together and plan to take the same classes and that kind of stuff. No, we didn't do any of that. It just happened that she texted me that one day and was like, hey, where were you thinking of studying abroad? I'm thinking of Rome. And I was like, oh my gosh, no way. This is a sign. We have to go. So then I actually ended up doing a separate program just due to like course transfer and all of that credit transfer. It didn't really work out with the Arkansas program. So I actually ended up studying through the University of Arkansas in Rome, and she went to a separate university, but they were close enough that we could walk and see each other or take the train and see each other. So it just kind of ended up working out perfect that we went to Italy together.
The
That
closest we could ever like be to living in the same town, of course, had to be like across the world, but but we at least got to spend time together and travel together, which is a lot of fun.
it's crazy. So how much time did you get together?
I would say like a good amount, but we definitely wish we would have been like together more. But the problem was it was like 30 minutes from like me to her in some way, like by train or by like metro or whatever, just because we were on opposite ends of Rome, which like made it a little bit more difficult. And I don't know, I just felt like we couldn't get to each other as easily as we wanted to.
Well,
So
and
then like, we were traveling a lot separately, but we did get to travel together some. So like
yeah. Well, and my class schedule was a little bit like I feel like I had weird class times with hers. The class times didn't really match up. So like sometimes we'd be like, hey, do you want to hang out? But it's already like nighttime. I don't want to walk by myself in a foreign city by myself. So it's just kind of weird. We had like weird times that we could meet up and stuff. But we tried like I feel like every once or every 2 weeks we saw each other, and then like we took a train trip one weekend and she came a few weeks early so we could spend a couple nights together in like an Airbnb, and so we did as much as we could together and we got to twirl together. So
Yeah, so it was fun.
Did you get to twirl together? Did you do any teaching in Italy?
We did a couple of things. So like when we went to the European Championships, we both got to perform and we both taught, which was a ton of fun because it was the same arena that we competed in 2015. So it was the first time we were going back there again. And so like all the memories were flushing back. Like that was probably, I would say, one of the most exciting like trips just because we were like, we know this place, like this is exciting. And then we did for the World Baton Twirling Day, we twirled at it was mainly the Coliseum because it had the most amount of space in front of it, but we tried twirling it at like a couple different places, so like that was a ton of fun. That we got a lot of stares for. People were not used to seeing that.
Well, did you put your tip hat out? You could have like
money.
put your tip hat out. You could have made money. Well, that's amazing. And did you see any Italian twirling friends?
We did. So when we went to the European Championships, we got to see all of our European MBTA friends. And then we went one weekend to Milan, and we went on to Torino to see like our friend Luca Fasano. And I saw Salvo a couple of times. And so it was fun to like get to see all of those people that
We're
we
in like their territory.
Yeah, we were in their territory. So it was interesting.
It's the best. Yeah. It's the best. And it's kind of like those unspoken rewards of working hard. Like practice hard, and maybe you hate the gym today and maybe you're going to hate the gym for 10 times, but eventually you're going to come out of this and there's some pretty cool things that can happen. So, tell me, so now with who knew COVID would be a gift somewhat to you guys and what's happening. So, Savannah, tell me about all of the experiences because of not just your career, but because of COVID. What are all the things that you're doing right now that are meshing together your broadcast journalism and your twirling?
Yeah, so originally when I graduated from Arkansas last December, so a year ago, and I then was hired by the University of Arkansas to run their television station as the news director. So I did that while in the middle of running everything, running the athletic department, all of the broadcast stuff at the university. COVID hit. And so it was like this huge wake up call because we couldn't do anything. And we didn't really know how to work Zoom, and there were no sporting events. So it was just kind of crazy. But I learned a lot during that time of, okay, we can still make newscasts happen. We can still have reporters go out and do things. And then at the time, there were still some sports going on in Arkansas. So it was just kind of trial and error of what we could do. So I learned a lot from that. And I also really got more into teaching over Zoom. I mean, I think I was teaching like close to 15, 20 hours a week of just different lessons from people from around the world. So that was an amazing experience. Well, come May, after I finished my 5 months with the university, I thought, okay, well, I'll apply for a couple broadcast positions, but I knew that I still wanted to have one more year to compete because after I came back from Rome, I ended up not competing that summer. So I felt like I needed one more nationals or international competition to kind of like put a bow on the career and say that's it.
Right.
And so I was still twirling and teaching, and we had clinics all that summer. I mean, Lexi and I both travel a lot over the summer as much as we can to teach. And so I applied for a few broadcast jobs. Well, I ended up getting through the process, and they were like, we're not hiring till 2021. And so that was kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I don't really know. So I kind of took some time and just enjoyed teaching over the summer. And then I realized that I love dance. It's always been a part of my career. And so I've always wanted to go to school for dance. And so I thought I was going to do that when I went to Arkansas at first, but they didn't have a program at the time. So I kind of like gave up on that dream. Well, due to COVID and due to teaching so much, it kind of reignited the fire in me to kind of go back to school for dance. So I moved to Nashville, and I was accepted into a dance program at the time. And so I'm going back to school to get a dance degree, hopefully, which is only going to take me a few semesters. So I'm super excited about that. But kind of to fill the void of time that I've had, I've been teaching a lot more, both traveling, which is so weird during COVID, and through Zoom. But I also just became a certified cycling instructor. So that's kind of been like something to just keep me busy. And I'm working there at the studio as much as I can. And then I'm working for different people, different organizations, using my broadcast degree, doing different social media projects for people. And so it's kind of been fun to like try new things, but also like still be training and still be doing all the things that I'm used to as well. So it's kind of been a good learning experience, and like like, oh, this is what we want to do with life, and this is like, I want to have a studio and I want to dance and twirl and do all the things. So
It's the time in your life to do all that.
exactly. And so I was like, don't rush into anything. There's always going to be a job out there, as long as I keep up with my journalism skills. And so maybe one day after I'm done with everything else that I'm trying to accomplish right now, I'll go back into just solely journalism. But for right now, I'm just trying new things and seeing where it lands me. So,
Well, and so many opportunities actually that can be self-driven of what you're doing with journalism. Like,
yeah.
who knew that you could create these careers? So, Lex, same thing. So, what are you finding with your broadcast journalism and your twirling? Is twirling's a part of it? What's up? Other than helping me with the video, you know.
So I actually, back in early March, right before like all the shutdown happened and everything, I was applying for internships because I was like, okay, I need an internship in the summer just so then, like, for my school, you need an internship to graduate to count for credit and everything. So I was like, okay, let me apply for it over the summer. Like, it'll be like, I think it was a part time or a full time gig, not sure which. And I was like, while I'm applying here, it was at a company that my teacher in the fall worked for, at Fox 45 in Baltimore. And so he always told us about how great the internship was and everything like that. So I was like, okay, might as well apply for it. Applying for that, I saw that there's a part-time video editor position. And I was like, all right, like, I need a job for when I'm done this internship. Like, I would love to make money. Like, that would be great. So I went and applied for this job too, not thinking anything of it. And then I emailed my teacher and just saying like, hi, like, just following up, like, I submitted my application for the internship, wasn't sure that if like you were the person to like notify or anything, but just so you know, I did it. And he was like, oh, I also see that you applied for like a part-time position for a video editor. And I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, are you interested? And I was like, I mean, yeah, like, I'm pretty interested in it. Because I always knew I liked video editing, but I didn't like know a ton about it. I just knew like basics. I felt like I didn't feel like I knew anything like extreme. But so that was on, I think, a Monday I applied for it. Tuesday or Wednesday he emailed me back and he was like, great, so do you want to come in for an interview this week? And I was like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, that'd be great. So he's like, all right, see you Friday 9 a.m. So like within a week I was like, I applied and like hired basically, or like 2 weeks after the interview he hired me. And so I've been working there since actually the day that Maryland completely like shut down in March. I started the day after that because like video editor positions can't do virtual or can't do anything like that from our station because it's all in house with like multiple monitors, the systems, everything like that. So I have been working at least part time there for like 5-ish months, 6-ish months. And then they offered me a full-time position. So now I'm working full-time as a video editor there, which I've learned so much in like my few short months. And I'm absolutely obsessed with editing, even more than I was before. Like, I have learned how to do so many different things in like After Effects and just like anything that like I want to learn, like I can ask anybody about it. And I like love the work environment. Like, I just love everything about it. Like, I got so lucky with like everything happening in the world. Like, I'm so blessed to be able to say that like I got a job in the time before everything broke loose, basically. And then with that, I actually started a web series recently because of the CBDNA Intercollegiate Marching Band performance that's going to be happening. I'm super excited about that because I think that's going to come together really cool. Along with that is where my web series started, called Twirl Around the World. And my goal for that is to kind of like bring people to like that I get to talk with and everything that wouldn't normally get to kind of share their story with the world, just because I feel like there's so many great stories that baton twirlers have about their journeys and everything, and so many of them don't get the recognition I feel like they deserve, just because like I never felt like there was like a platform for everybody to like submit, not even like submit people, but just like for anybody to be like, okay, like let me talk, like let me tell you about my life, where it's taken me and everything like that. So I started that with Style Plus TV. They've been awesome too. They've been like such a big welcoming family, because I only started that like a month ago. I think like it's like really soon, but like all of it happened really fast. And I like edit and like produce my own shows. So like that is what I absolutely love about it too. And I get to find like whoever I want to interview and like everything like that. So um that has been awesome in itself. I am teaching too with with all this when there's time. I do some like Zoom like lessons and like coaching everything through that. I also do some like in person depending on the times. Like you never
Yeah,
know
it
what.
changes by the day.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, so I'm still coaching everything. I'm not competing at all anymore. Um, but I am on the other side of things, keeping
Well,
myself.
no, it's wonderful. And I think like there's nothing better than on the job experience for both of you to just be thrown out there and do what you have to do, whether it's in the editing or broadcast journalism. And the collegiate thing has been really fun because that network of people from day one, eons ago, months ago, we in the collegiate marching world, it was this network of people that are really highly motivated and highly skilled, and just really looking at the things that we hadn't thought about, like passing water bottles and you can't ride on buses. And this is before like we just had the glimmer of hope that a football season could happen. And so then when the intercollegiate performance came about, at least it's something for these kids to look forward to. So the twirling world and how it is with twirlers in collegiate positions, and then it's like, oh great, this is awesome, I'm so glad that Lexi's doing it. And then have you enlisted some other twirlers with it too, or is it?
I it's so it's twirlers. I know that it's from like all across the US. The only conference to have a twirler represent from all the schools that have like feature twirlers or majorettes is the Big Ten. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind of why
awesome.
my first episode started with the Big Ten, and like I had a special like love for that too, because Maryland being Big Ten, I was like so excited about that. But then there's like a ton of other conferences that are in it too, and just like I want to be able to talk to everybody that's a part of it. But it's a lot of work to do your own shows. So little by little, like I'm definitely working on it, but yeah.
Wonderful. No, I get it. So tell me from now we'll have different people, different abilities and ages looking at this and what's going on. So Savannah, tell me from we can never share this information enough, but the practice habits that you had, and what are the great things that you were able to build that you could carry into college and career?
Yeah, so I think at a young age, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this, is time management. And that was something that I think Lexi and I both were like, it was instilled in us at such a young age. And that's something that I try to pass to any twirler that I'm working with, is you have to be passionate and on top of your whatever you're doing, whether it's school, extracurriculars, twirling, just learning that skill at a young age and carrying it through high school and college. It just is going to make you such a better adult. I just think just because you're going to get so overwhelmed with everything that's going on. And so if you can time manage school, twirling, extracurriculars, like it's going to just make you more successful later on. But other things too is being determined and being passionate about what you're doing. And so knowing that every day when you walk into the gym is a privilege, it's not something that is just you shouldn't take for granted, because like COVID just hit and we didn't have gyms, we didn't have access to our practice facilities anymore, and so we had to get creative. And so kind of stripping that away from us kind of brought me back to, oh, twirling is such a privilege, and it's so amazing that we have our health to be able to do all the amazing things that we get to do. And so when you walk into the gym, just making sure that you're staying focused and you're not on your phone the entire time. I know that's something that the younger generation, I feel like they're getting phones earlier and earlier and more distractions. That's something that I didn't grow up with. So it was always like, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to practice, I'm going to get my work done, and then I can leave. I mean, you shouldn't have to be in the gym 10 hours every time you go there. So if you can get those things done, be diligent about your practice schedule, and still have those time management skills, you're going to be so successful way beyond your twirling career for sure.
Well, what a tremendous piece of advice. I think what you just said, to be grateful that you have the privilege to walk in. I think that that's a tremendous piece of advice. So, Lexi, you've grown up around a program with a wide variety of ages and skills. What do you think is the biggest pitfall that if you could look at someone and help correct what they're doing right now, that's going to be a problem in their practice habits? What would you say is one of those problems?
Well, I try and so everybody practices different. I also like have learned that a lot from teaching. Everybody processes different too. So like especially when teaching things, I always like start out the lesson or start out anything by saying like if whatever I say does not make sense, please tell me. People process things differently. I can word it in a different way and hopefully it'll click better and kind of make the connection and it'll help more. I also found myself recently bringing it back to like what I used to do. So like sometimes if like people are doing things and I'll be like, I don't know if you like to do it that way, but here's another example of like I always thought it was really helpful to like say for like flip sections or say for rolls, like break it down into smaller. Or I said this about two baton the other day. I was like, you have a whole two baton that's supposed to be intertwined. I was like, the only way that you're going to be able to get it that intertwined is if you let yourself take it in pieces and build it to perfection as best as you can, and then kind of lump it together, and then you'll be able to get your routine. It's like when you get a brand new routine, you can't just drill from beginning to end, beginning to end. You're never going to learn from that. So you're not going to be able to get the tricks at the flow that you want it because you're not going to be able to control one. Like you're not breaking it down in your head, figuring out how to make your body work, basically. So like I've thought about it, I guess, a lot more like recently when I'm teaching that I like see myself being like, oh, like that's how I used like I knew how I used to do it, but like now I know how to put it in words how I used to practice to help out like younger generations. So then hopefully it'll lead them into a direction that they get even more success, like way better than I ever was, basically.
Well, isn't that the joy of private coaching? Is that, at least for me, joy of private coaching is like every kid learns so differently. And for you to be able to speak to them, and some need the love language, and some need discipline, and some need, to be able to speak to every one of them and their language and how they're going to learn it, just made it fascinating for me. And I think that that's also what makes people really good competitors as older twirlers, is that you understand yourself and your processes. Then you're not just like, the kids who are just naturally gifted from day one and have no idea why they can do what they can do. And instead, I don't know about you two, but like I had to break it all down and figure it out. Like there was no way you could just walk out and do it. And, consequently, hopefully that made me a better coach because I knew the processes of what you had to do. So I'm going to let you guys go here pretty quickly because you are in high demand, and I'm just grateful that I got time with you. First of all, because I love you to death, and secondly, I think people hearing about you and your friendship is just really something charming about our activity and about both of you in particular. So Savannah, the future. So tell me like all of the hats you want to wear in the future, and what do the next, say COVID goes, the vaccines from Kalamazoo here. I'm pushing them to work hard on that. Get all the doses out. I'm teasing, but hopefully it's gone tomorrow. What do the next 2 years look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what happens, obviously, in the next couple of months. I know that I would like one more year to compete. I mean, I've worked since 2019 on one program for the last almost 2 years. And so I would like to be able to compete one more time, whether that's 2021 or 2022. And then with going back to school and training in dance, it's going to take me about year and a half, 2 years to, because I don't start school till January. And so it'll take me some time to get my degree in that. And then honestly, past that, I haven't really thought much about it. I know that I do still love broadcast journalism. So potentially looking for a job either in public relations, more social media side of things, or being a producer for a broadcast television station. We'll kind of go from there after I'm done with my second degree. And then eventually, I would love to open my own dance studio that has dance, twirling, gymnastics, cheerleading, physical fitness. I think it's so important to be physically fit because we are athletes. It's not just something, it's not a hobby. And so teaching young athletes that they still have to work out on top of all of their twirling and dance routines is so important. And so basically having like this big complex would be like a dream come true. And then obviously switching over to, like I said, the coaching side, but also I want to become a judge in both organizations and eventually at the world level. And maybe one day serve on the board of directors for the International Federation. That would be amazing too. Just giving back as much as I can to the sport that gave me so much. So.
Well, and everyone needs your talent and your wisdom, and I loved having you guys still involved and bringing other skills to the table. Lexi, what does it look like for you in the next couple years?
That is
Oh, I think you muted yourself.
I did. Wait,
Oh,
I
she
did
started.
it.
I was like, where'd it go?
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries. I have no idea. To be honest, I am really taking it a day at a time because, first of all, I did not expect to be at the job that I'm at now, right out of college. Basically, I was still getting my degree while I have this job. So, like, beyond that, like, that was not even an expectation for me. Like, it all happened by chance. So, between that, I'm kind of just trying to figure out the adult life more, I guess, is the good way to put it. Just because, like, I I like my entire life has been baton and like education basically. It's always been about like family and everything like that stuff too. But like the bulk of things, like I was always training and going to school my entire life. And then COVID basically abruptly ended it. And while that was happening is right when I started a job and I was like, "Oh, I'm like a full-blown adult kind of. Like this is weird. I don't know what to do." And I like even my college graduation, I was literally at work. Like I watched it on my phone. Like I had it next to me. Like when I wasn't editing, I was like, oh, well, that's cool. So like I feel like I was just like thrown into the adult lifestyle and I just have no idea what direction I want to do and where I want to go. All I know is that I love editing. I love journalism. I love broadcast journalism. I love coaching and baton and everything like that. So like I definitely want to stay involved in pretty much like I'm open to like whatever aspect. I've never really thought like deep into being a judge or anything, just because I always felt like I'd be really hard as a judge, and I'm like scared that I would be like that mean judge that I'm like, nope, like your pinky was on your Fijimi, nope, like like little things like that. So being a judge kind of scares me right now. I'm gonna be honest, but coaching does not. So I'm definitely gonna keep with coaching and journalism and hopefully this web series keep going with that hopefully. So yeah, I just keep improving my skills hopefully.
Well, I think that the lesson is that, a lot of people that don't understand the work behind all this sometimes think that people fall into great places. Like you fell into a great job, Lex, and Savannah, you've got tons of things going on. But the backstory to all that is you've worked your whole life for these things. And the discipline and the commitment and the intelligence and the skill lays the groundwork for great things. So when they say that kind of, fortune meets opportunity and there's a little luck smattered in there, that I think that you can't look at a charmed life and not realize everything it took to get there. So, both of you, I just want to thank you so much for everything you've given to the sport. And I could go on about, just you're great people, you're good to others, you are kind to each other, and your friendship has just been really fun to watch. And I think that when you look at who all of us are, I laugh in my life that I have different girlfriends and each one fills a different cup. And so, you need those friends that fill the different cups in your life. And so it's fun to watch how you two have filled each other's cup. So keep it up, keep doing great things, and we need you in the sport. And thank you for taking time tonight. I feel like I got, a great commodity during this time, and I won't keep you anymore, but thanks. Have a wonderful Christmas. Stay safe and give love to your families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night and have a great holiday. Thanks.